Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Chronicles of Hollywood History, past, present, and future. Welcome. And here now, Corey Gomez.
Lord, want to welcome to Chronicles of Hollywood History, past, present, and future. Today I am joined by star of, Cooley High, Youngblood, L.A. Heat, not to be confused with the TV show, but the movie, and of course, Welcome Back Kotter. I am here with Mr. Lawrence Hilton Jacobs. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate it.
I've got to ask, do you have how did you get started in the acting business?
When I was a kid, I was 14, 15-ish, something like that. I'm 67 now, and so I'm trying to be in the game. But I was born and raised in New York City. I went to a management company called Romy Management, which did nothing for me. but it taught me how to start making the rounds. In those days, you could be a freelance, and you could work with as many agents that would work with you. So I started doing the hustle and learning how to do it. Learned a lot from a good friend, Adam Wade, who became a mentor and is a lifelong friend, and taught me the ropes. And, started just doing things. Started out doing a lot of background work. My first year and a half, I did nothing but extra work. I was happy to get it. And I even told recently, I ran into Fred Williamson, who's been a friend for years. And I said, Fred, I never told you this. I said, I was just standing for one day on Crazy Joe. I said, I was about 18 years old, and I was just standing. And that was my last day being a stand. But I made a record $45 that day. I was happy to get it.
Fred,
those were the beginning days.
I've never got to talk to Fred yet. I'm going to stress because I've always been a huge fan. Is he as cool in person as he is in the movies?
Fred is just a good, easy-going brother. He always got a quick line when you see him. Like when I saw him last, they had some kind of a tribute to people who were in Black Cinema down at City Hall not too long ago, so they invited a bunch of us. And Fred was there, and I had not seen Fred for years. It was good to see him. And I said, hey, Fred, how you doing? He says, man, I know all about you, man. You stole all my stuff. He took everything that I did. That's Fred. So, he's cool, man. He's a good guy, one of the good guys. But he is. He's a very cool, easy-going guy. Very honest.
Now, of course, you're, one of your first films to this day, still a classic, Cooley High. You were Cochise.
Yeah, man.
I got to tell you, the same thing I told Mr. Williams the other day. I'm watching this movie, and I'm seeing you guys, and you're just going on a joyride in a stolen car. You're sneaking into the movies. You're going to a party. Then I got to watch you get beat to death, and I'm like, man, this movie took a left turn out of nowhere.
It's funny. Life happens, and it's based. A lot of people don't know that Cooley High is based on a true story. It's about Eric Monti's life, and he put it into a film, and a lot of people don't even know that. But this is how it happened, it's just heart-wrenching. I know for the first maybe 10, 12 years of that film, my mother could never watch the end of that film because it broke her up, and it was her son as far as she was concerned. But, it's just a very, very innocent movie that the last days of innocence and having a lot of fun, and life has variables in it. So this is also the price in Cooley High.
I think another thing that made it so good is it's a PG film. Like you said, it's almost a family film. It is a family film. It's not. It didn't go the R-rated tone that a lot of the films were going with back in the day.
No, we even then, I think when we were back there in that day, they were just getting rid of the M rating. We should be for mature audiences, so long ago as it was. So, we didn't have any real profanity in it or no overt violence out of, what you saw towards the end of the movie. And it was just a movie that was trying to be honest and show a sort of slice of life, of a certain life or lifestyle, which happened to be Eric Monti's life and us guys playing the parts. And so it merited the PG. And the fact that it is a PG, because it is a family movie, and it's an enjoyable film for any age. So here you go.
And I don't even know if this is true, so I'm going to ask, because I've heard it for years. I've heard that What's Happening was a spinoff of Cooley High, or based on Cooley High, and I've never been able to put that connection together.
I'll tell you how it happened. When they, the producers who produced What's Happening was Saul Turteltaub and Saul Turteltaub, I forget the other guy's name, but they were partners. And they had done a Cooley High pilot. But what they did is they took Cooley High from 1964 and they updated it to 1974. They shot that pilot and it didn't fly. But they wanted to continue the idea. So some way they regurgitated it. There's a good way of squeezing out of it. And What's Happening came out. And the only holdover from the pilot was Ernest Thomas. He played Preach in the pilot of Cooley High. And Dorian Harewood played my part. She played Coach Hughes, who's a friend. And so television is crazy. And, and the most insane ideas can come out of another idea to become another idea. And you say, how's that possible? But this happens all the time, even in the course of doing a television series, and you listen to some of the scripts that come in very fast, and you have to learn them pretty fast. And sometimes, I don't know what the writers are on, but they're on something. Because they send some stuff like, wait a minute, this doesn't make any sense, or this doesn't make logical. Did you realize this couldn't happen because this happened? Oh, yeah. So you just have to be on your toes a lot, and you just got to be as receptive as you can to what's coming to you and make something out of it. But that's television. Television is a version of a version of a version of a version. More times, and by the time it gets to the seventh version, the person who was creating that seventh version forgot the first one that they stole it from. So there you go, man.
Now, one of my favorite shows, and I'd like to tell you this. I haven't told anybody this. One of my favorite shows is Welcome Back Kotter. And Welcome Back Kotter,
okay, a lot of fun. Yeah,
always made me laugh. And a few months back, May actually, I got really sick. And I had to have a COVID test. And, I was sick. And I needed to take my mind off things because, I'm worried about this test result that I'm going to get. And to pass the time, even though I was, burning up with fever, I laid in bed and watched Welcome Back Kotter just to take my mind off an impending illness.
That's pretty cool.
So, yeah.
You watch the ladies to help you mend yourself.
That show is, and I think people don't always think, what that show accomplished, because it's considered one of the classic shows ever. It only had a 4-year run, and it's, where some of these shows had 10, 12-year runs that didn't get the acclaim Welcome Back Kotter did. What do you think was it that made that show, to this day, it's not even dated. It's just timeless.
Something, it was aimless humor with a note. Sometimes you would deal with the things that were going on that might be an issue. But most times it was just the guys having fun to have fun. And even in the first year of the show, when we did the first 22 shows, it was almost like the four of us was one person in the way we talked or finished each other's sentences and so forth. That became the design of the show, and then it started getting a little more individualistic as we went on to the other seasons. But you never know why something has a longevity, or you would like to pretend you're that genius and you can know that. You just can't. But I think it's enjoyable. It's fun. We were having the ball of our life. I think that's the most fun I've ever had in my life on a gig, because it was definitely the inmates running the asylum. It was nuts. And the thing on top of it that made it even crazier, in the first year we were doing the show, we were at the NBC studios in Burbank, and next door to us was Chico and the Man rehearsing, which our producers also produced. So Freddie Prinze became a good friend and a cohort. So he had Freddie Prinze, he had us, sometimes Jimmy Walker, young guys around here just tearing up that studio a lot and acting nuts and driving, taking their cars to, for the Wheel of Fortune, things you drive off with their trucks. And we were out of control. But we had a lot of fun. And that was it. It was just, they had a fresh, aimless humor about it, or an unashamed humor about it. And so that was the aim for us, and I would only hope that that's the appeal.
And I have the comic books. I have a box. I don't have the Mego figures anymore. I wish I did.
Wow.
I had them back as a day. Do you still have any of them? Do you have any of the merchandise?
Oh God, yeah, man. I'm looking at the lunchbox right now. I'm in my office. I look at the lunchbox. I have the doll of Ron Palillo and myself. It doesn't look anything like us. And what am I looking at? I'm looking at the poster on the wall. I have a candid shot of myself, John, Bobby, and Gabe on the set when we were rehearsing, and you really saw what we looked like. We're unshaven, and our hair not combed, and I got a hat on, and you know what the Sweathawks really look like when they put the show together. And so, I have in my office, in my place, I put everything in one room, so every poster, everything I can think of that I've ever done is all over the place in here.
Do you remember that hit single, The Fonzarelli Slide?
I'm telling you, you're into it, man. I love it.
Why didn't you guys do the own voice? I mean, like, even Henry Winkler, it was a Fonz album, and Henry Winkler didn't voice it. How come they didn't get you guys to do the voicing for that stuff?
Well, they tried to do everything, at the same time, we were still theater guys in our soul somewhere, and we wanted to have individual careers, and we all got singled out, so everybody's doing their own thing a lot. I think something that was interesting, though, at one point, Disney, the Walt Disney Studios, thinking of doing some kind of a new animated film back in 1976, and they had myself, Bobby, Haran, and John come over to the Disney studio to record our voices as possible for a cartoon. And they even showed us these 4 birds that they designed on us, which made us crack up. But the cartoon never happened. So that was it. We all had our lives and our individual thing to do. And when you're doing a show every day, and you're doing it all the time, and the fanfare that certainly happened with the Welcome Back Kotter, which was enormously big, you just want to try other things, too. You want to mix it up a little bit. So that was us.
Did you guys peg John Travolta to leave and go on to become, well, basically John Travolta?
Well, nobody knew. John certainly didn't know. We were around just doing a show and happy to have a job. And we're all, young actors in our 21, 20 years old. We're young guys. And so we're happy. And when John went off and did, the other movie, The Saturday Night Fever and all that, you still have to wait to see what happened. But then when it happened, it was like, boom, it went overnight. And got big and ran onto him. And, blessings to him. No problem with that. But nobody can know. You never know. My thing, to me, is always about consistency and staying in the game, of course, and being able to deliver no matter what. So that's the longevity of my world, is that I make some of my own gigs. Sometimes I'm a writer-director as well. And people still ask me to do a gig, so that's pretty nice, man.
Do you think if Gabe Kaplan wouldn't have left for a while, the show would have lasted a little bit longer?
No, I think it had its day, to be honest. Everything was happening because Travolta had become the superstar guy, so he really wanted to do that, so he wasn't interested in being there anymore. I had enough of the show, although I liked the show. It's time to move on, and I signed on to do a Broadway play. I love my wife. And I might have been in trouble because if they would have picked us up for a 5th season, I don't know how I was going to get out of the play contract because I signed for 16 weeks. But we just had a feeling, and it's like anything else. When you do something, like you do a piece of art, and you work on it, and you embellish it, and you fine-tune it, and you do all those wonderful things, and at some point you must walk away from it and let it be what it was and what it is. And to me, I often wondered if we went on for a 5th year, would it have been a nice one? Because some people were getting bitter or tired of the show or feeling their careers didn't bounce off the same way as others. And it looked like it was going to get testy at any moment, and nobody was broke, so it wasn't about I need a job. It was a whole different attitude. So it ended at the right time for us because we stayed lifelong friends to this day.
Plus, you guys had already been in high school 4 years. I mean, you're bound to graduate sometimes.
Well, yeah, we hope so. When I finally graduated from Welcome Back Kotter, I was 26. So, wow. It's a long stretch, man.
But, you watch some of these shows that start out where the kids are in high school and it goes on for so many years. Then they're in college and they have jobs. It's like, well, I don't care about you anymore. And that's
the hard thing of, growing up on television. If you're playing a kid part or a young part and you grow up, the appeal of you as a kid is different as an adult. You can have a career. I mean, Dean Stockwell was a kid actor who went on to have a wonderful adult career, and Daryl Hickman and people like this went on to have nice careers. Elizabeth Taylor was another one. Those people, of course, became a brilliant actor in dramatic stuff years later. You can have more going on, but it's a little tough in television because it's so immediate or it's so regular, and it seems like when you go into that one change of life when you're 12 and all of a sudden you're 14 and your voice dropped and you grew 4 inches. It happens over a summer. Wow. Mm-hmm. Now what do you do? And then 2 years later you start to get whiskers on your face and you're like, oh, wow, I don't believe this. And so it's a little hard to cover it up if you're still trying to play 14 and you're 18.
Yeah.
It gets tough. Yeah. Even for us to Welcome Back Kotter, we knew better. I mean, when we went into the last year, and I was 26 going into the show, about to turn 26. I was like, getting a little stretchy, guys. Me playing this high school guy, as in anybody else. And Ron Paloma was only like 31 then, so, it was time. Trying to move on.
And they never did do the Horseshack spinoff like they alluded to.
Well, they did. They did a pilot. but it didn't fly. So that's how that went.
One of my favorite companies in the 90s who I always wished I would have worked for, but they closed before I got in better shape. You got to play a cop who wanted to be a cowboy for PM Entertainment. You got to play John Chance in 3 films, I believe. It was L.A. Heat, L.A. Vice, and then just Chance, correct?
Yeah, hold on for a second. Hi, I'm on an important call right now. I need to come back, okay? Sorry. Excuse me.
Oh, you're okay.
Some young lady was coming to the front door asking me something. She was ringing the doorbell. So they're going to hit you up for something. And she came with no mask on, so no go.
No go there.
Yeah, no go. But you were saying about LA Heat? Is what you were talking about?
PM Entertainment, one of my favorite companies. You got to do John Chance 3 times. How fun was it was it fun or was it
John
dangerous?
Chance 4 times. 4 times I did.
Oh, yeah, Angels in the City.
I directed Angels in the City, which was my directorial debut, and they wanted Chance to be in there, so I did a cameo and directed myself in a couple of scenes. But LA Heat is became a series years later, and I wound up directing an episode of that. But they had changed the concept of it. They were trying to do their version of Lethal Weapon, and so that was Stephen Wolf when they got into the show, which is fine. But LA Heat was a nice thing to come along, and with PM Entertainment, it was like a gift. When I got there, I saw it was a small company, but I knew I could grow in there fast. I knew I could write and direct there pretty quickly, which I did. I wound up doing it 3 times there, and writing a bunch of times. And so, nice springboard. Not bad.
What were the stunts like back then for theirs? I've heard they were, they looked amazing, but I heard they could be a little risky at times as well.
Yeah, they could be. I missed part of your question. Who was like
the stunt work that you had to do for the movies? Were they a little dangerous?
Well, something. It didn't happen with me, and I know in some of the PM's history they had some bad accidents when I was not there, no longer the company, but I knew they were doing other movies because they made a million of them. So they had done some stunts that were overzealous and so forth. That didn't happen with me. And to be honest, it would never happen with me. I wouldn't let it. I'm very respectful to stunt people, and they're probably the most careful, thinking through people when it's time to execute their achievements. So I pay attention to the letter. It's not taking any chances. There's no machoism, and it's about listening to what needs to be done and figuring out how to do it. And for many years, I understand that when I was studying acting up in Harlem at the Ensemble as a kid, we used to do light stunt work as part of our trainings. We learned how to do flips and falls and fight scenes, and I've been doing martial arts so long that I understood that as well. So when it came to those kind of things, I kind of had a rhythm of what I could get away with and or what we should push for sometimes. I'm still like that to this day when it comes to stunts.
When you mentioned the TV show, LA Heat's one of my favorite TV shows, and I think it was so genius how they took the scenes from the movies and edited it into this show to make it look so state-of-the-art. And I remember...
not to cut you off, but that might be cool, but it made it tough on the director because they would say, they would have whatever movies they did, and they had these big stunts, they wanted you to pick a stunt. So they gave me a video, a VHS, and I had like 20, scenes I could pull from. And every time I looked at one, we used one, so I finally found one that I could use. Then I had to match the cars and figure out how to do all the in-between shots. So that became a little bit of a challenge. But you do it, you pull it off. So that's
my wife had never seen LA Heat, and I own the discs, and so I'm showing it to her, and as I'm watching it, I hadn't watched it in a while, I'm like, okay, I saw this car blow up in Ring of Fire. Wait, this bus flipped over in the rage, and then finally, because there was no internet, really then, so I'm looking it up, used, I was like, well, that's pretty clever, and Steven told me that he actually, a lot of the scenes, he was driving the car himself.
Oh, yeah, man. The show was a very tight budgeted show. We shot it fast. It was 6-day shoots. So you had to really get a lot done. And you had to match all this footage sometimes, at least parts of stunt stuff. But it still was fine. It was a good experience. It didn't feel pressured or rushed. Interesting to be directing somebody who's a friend that you've known for a long time, which is Steve, and then I was his director, but, that worked out. And Wolf Larson was a good dude, too, the other star. You do what you got to do. So we did it.
Yeah, Steven's I can't put him over enough. Just truly one of the most amazing guys I've ever talked to. Wolf, I haven't been able to track down yet, but I'm working on it. Now, you're listed in the credits of Firepower, but for the life of me, and I love the movie Firepower with the Ultimate Warrior, Gary Daniels, Chad McQueen. Who were you in that?
I'm not in that at all. I don't even. When you said firepower, I was wondering, what's he talking about? I've seen a couple of credits that come up like in the Wikipedia that I was supposed to have been in. I'm like, well, they're not sending me the residual check, so I think they got the accounting right. I don't know how that happened. Somebody's made a misquote somewhere.
I even watched it again the other day after I talked to you, and I was like, well, God, I'd seen it 100 times. It's like, I can't spot you for the life of me, so I figured I'd just ask. So, yeah, I didn't, I gave up on that one, so it's good to know that
no, I'm nowhere to be seen in that one, so that's just somebody's misquote.
Now, one movie, things happen. You've gotten critical acclaim for a lot of your stuff, but one of them, of course, was as Joe Jackson for the Jacksons miniseries. How was it to play the part of Joe, who's not a well-liked man in most circles?
That's an assumption a lot, or a thought. And my approach to understanding Joe, one thing is I knew the family and Joe many, many years before I ever knew I was going to play him. So there's, how lots of strange things happen. But my approach was, I never thought of him as hateful. I thought of him as strong, overly strong, because he had to be for his family himself. He came from a rough background and so forth, and he had to make it, until the machine was too big for even he, and then he didn't have a place. So that's in my take his life. And so a lot of the boys married off young, so they can move on or get out there, and they had to sink or swim and know how to do it. But Joe was tough, very tough, and but in his quiet moments, which I've had many with him, he's very quiet, he's very respectful, I know once we were in Philadelphia together, and we did some radio show together some years ago, and he was just like he has a very soft voice. He says, "No, don't you can't be able to do that now." I said, "There's a soul food restaurant." I'm like, "Wait a minute. I'm going with you." I said, "Let's go." And so that's Joe. And I liked him very much. He was a tough guy. He was a difficult guy. He was a creative guy and a smart guy at the same time. So there's a lot to do. But at the end of the day, he really made those boys who they are. Yeah. That we look at music royalty. And out of that wonderful, brilliant family came out also two more people that went even beyond, and that's Michael and Janet. Mm-hmm. So you can't beat that. That's all he's doing. His springboard.
How much of the movie, because you read different things, was movied up, so to speak, to make it a little more menacing than it was? Do you think there was a lot of liberties taken in it?
Well, they worked close with the family on developing the script. Jermaine Jackson was one of the producers, so he was definitely involved a lot. Some things that they even wanted to do in the script, I wouldn't do. They had Joe just being mean all the time, and I said, that's impossible. I said, it took a lot of love to make those 9 babies. It wasn't all mean, and I said, and it's a whole lot to it. So on every scene, whatever age I played, I would put a note for myself to tell me why I loved my kids, and remind me of how to have that as a true line to play some levels to him, and a little more reason. And so there it is. The family was involved. They were on the set all the time. There was always a Jackson around watching us shoot the movie. We got used to that. And, you do your job. You do what you have to do. And stuff like that. But how much of it is true? I would say pretty much most of it. It was interpreted. It's an impression of the truth, or an interpretation of the truth, because you have to realize it cinematically. But it was based on things that happened. And, nothing could happen verbatim the way it happened, because it might be boring to do it that way. But, no, it was pretty close. Pretty close. I can give you an example. There was one thing where, I'll just say this now, where I had a scene where I came off the road with the boys, and when I come back, the house is changed around, and I don't like it, and then Reeve said something about it, and I grabbed her. In the script, it said that I grabbed her, and I punched her out. Oh. And I wouldn't do it, And they were trying to tell me, did it really happen? I said, well, I don't know if it really happened or not. I said, but Larry Jacobs is not going to do it. I said, I'm 6'3". Monica, who was playing Reeve, was 5'2". I said, I'm going to look like beyond a monster. I said, but if I grab her real tough, I think that would scare the shit out of people. And it'd be enough, And so they went through it, and that's how we played.
Was Michael ever on set?
No, Michael didn't come around. Michael at the time was rehearsing to go on the road with a big show. I don't know if it was the show This Is It, but I know he's rehearsing the show. So we never got to see Michael, and everybody. Janet came around with Catherine was around a lot, and Joe was around a lot. And Janet came down one day with Catherine, but I missed Janet when I got there that day. And at any given moment, you see Tito or Randy or somebody or Jackie just being on the set all the time. And of course, Jermaine was there every day because he's one of the producers.
How amazing was the performance of Berry Gordy in that film?
How amazing was the performance, you said?
I thought I was watching the real Berry Gordy when I was watching that film.
You know something? If there's a secret to playing a real person, is that you don't try to play them verbatim because you'll never get it. You couldn't know that. But if you play the honesty of who someone is and the sentiment of who they are, then you have a tag, you have a hook. And Billy D knew Berry Gordy extremely well. He did 2 movies with him, and he made 3 movies with him. I'm not talking about, and knew him for many, 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 many years. But that is the thing is to play the truth. And if there's any secret to being an actor, it's being honest in the moment, honest in what it's saying, so you can convey that, and then finding, doing your interpretation of that. That's the approach. And I guess I even said with Joe, or even you had mentioned, a lot of people think, he's just a mean guy all the time. And I said, that's just ridiculous. He was, but he's like anybody gets like that. And he was tough, but he was full of love. And he was a sap for his grandchildren. People wouldn't even know that. He started getting the babies around. They would just climb up in the bed and jump on him and want to play with Grandpa. And he loved it. And stuff. So that's just real stuff that they didn't have that in the movie because they didn't get to that point in the movie. But, you play the honesty. And the role, and that in itself is the truth in the reality of a constructed narrative.
What were your memories of the Alien Nation TV show? That was ahead of it. That was a very ahead of its time TV show, and you had a nice run on there.
Yeah, I was on there for a short. I was there for 9 episodes, and it was what it was. It was based on the movie Alien Nation, and they tried it as a series. And, at the time, Kenny Johnson, who produced the show career, was real hot. He had come up doing The Incredible Hulk and The V and all these wonderful shows. So he understood that kind of a world and things like that. And they tried it, and they got a year. And they just moved on, as these things can be. So no series last forever. That I know. I'm doing one right now, but I know it's not going to be on forever. And so that's reality. And so Alien Nation had its run, and when my time came to if you want to know the secrets, to renew my contract, Nino wanted to do it because I can be honest, I thought it was silly, and it was really no real development for my character or any real growth. And and I'm not going to name people out, but there's a couple of little ego rips going on in the show. And I said, I don't give a shit. I'm a grown person, raising kids. I'm out of here, man. So. I went on and I think the day I left there, I went up and did a PM movie or something like that. So,
You can't beat PM.
Oh, no, PM kept us going. I mean, we'd finish one Friday or early Saturday morning. I'd catch my breath, and then Sunday start the next one. It was knocking those things. I mean, literally, I would be directing one or in one or sometimes both. When I was doing Alien Nation, I was doing Alien Nation in the day, and at night casting Angels of the City, which is the first movie I directed for PM. So that's just the kind of schedules you get sometimes. It's around the clock. Just never slept. A lot of energy at 35. So.
I got to see when I was getting ready to interview the cast of Renegade. I rewatched all the Renegades, and you had that nice two-parter there.
Real good. Yeah,
helped get Lorenzo out of jail there.
Lorenzo's a good guy, man. He always has been from day one. He's just one of the good guys, And even when we went in and I went to audition for it so they can see that I could do it, you could see he wanted me to, and he just looked and said, let's do this. I said, yeah, let's do it. And so that was a comfort for us, and that was a good 2 weeks working on that show. There's a couple of episodes, or 14 days, whatever it took. I forgot.
Yeah, he was. Kathleen is one of my favorite people. Of course, I'm doing stuff with Branscombe, so that that show has a pretty special place for me.
Yeah, man, you're a good fan, man. You're a good audience.
I'm and the thing is, I own all this stuff. I watch it, I pay attention to it, and Now, I was kind of giving you a little joke in there when I talked to you the other day. I am a big fan of Rob Zombie. 31 was a little out there for me, but for 31, did you have to audition for that, or did he just
No. Nobody gets auditions for Rob. Rob just, likes you or picks you, and that's it. And my name came up, and it was easy. It was just that quick. And even when I wanted to do it with a West Indian accent, we didn't trip. We talked on the phone about it, and he said, well, and I did it for him. And I started talking this week, and he said, man, what you wanted to see that boy? And he said, and he said, oh, yeah, let's go for that. And so, Rob, he changes his mind a lot. I mean, every day, there was new lines and new scenes and new situations that we never saw before. And he seems to cut his movies in that way. So, I think he even knew it then, and his wife, Sherry, they said, this is enough. This is one time, maybe too many. We've done a lot of these things, so maybe it's time to move forward and do something else. So who knows? But, you go for the experience. It was a one month of my life, and I went off and just did it.
I remember very excited because it got a very limited release, at least here where I live. It played for 3 nights. It was like one of those Phantom events. And I was very excited because they were very still kind of, the trailers didn't allude to anything, so I'm just assuming here's this group of people, they get trapped, they're hunted for sport, the age-old story. And I'm seeing people in Victorian wigs, and I'm seeing little people with weapons. Was the script like that, or was that just how he saw it?
No, it was written in the script, man. I remember when we sat down to have a sit-down rehearsal, I'm sitting with Judy Geeson and Malcolm and where she do, but without the makeup on, and we're all doing it. And Rob is on his own rhythm. He's on his own thing. And he just lets you be a part of his party, and it doesn't necessarily make sense, but you try to make sense out of it. And even when you do that, when he gets into the editing room, he changes it again. So it became a different thing. So I'm not putting the movie down, but it ain't high on my list. So there you go. There it is.
I think he, as a director for horror movies, I think he's got a fantastic eye. I mean, his stuff, it definitely looks like nothing anyone's seen. And the one thing I've always enjoyed was his soundtracks. Like, you look at the back of it and it's like, why does this movie have these bands in it? But the way he makes everything fit, like, I really like the way his stuff looks. I don't always necessarily love the film, but I love, like, the experience, how it feels.
I mean, he's got his way, his background is also, he was an artist, a fine artist. I think he went to visual arts college in New York. I think we talked about that and all that stuff. And so, besides being a rocker and a director, which he fell into, he has a very scoping eye, a very artistic point of view, and he hears it in music as well. So that's his thing, and that's nice. And every director should have their voice, or be able to have their voice, and go for the things that they feel will work, irrespective of what somebody else might think, because it can work. Doesn't always, but it might.
No, I gotta bring you into the present here. I won't keep you much longer. I gotta ask, one of your first credit roles was Death Wish, correct?
In the early days, yeah. Mm-hmm.
With the legend Charles Bronson.
Charles Bronson, and I didn't get a credit. But it was cool. Yeah, I was 12. What was I then? I was 20 years old. 20 years old. I worked for 2 days with Bronson. Real nice man. He was really nice.
And now here's what's creepy. You just finished a film with Mr. Bronzy. Did you think you were looking at Charles? I mean, that guy is a dead ringer.
It was uncanny for a minute when I first met him. He's a very quiet, humble guy, Robert. But to look at him it spooks you out for a minute because he looks like a Bronson of a certain time. He's the same height and the look and the build and the whole. It was trippy, man. It was just a trip, yeah. So I worked with Bronson and the Bronson Part 2 guy.
Yeah, I remember when his Death Kiss movie came out, and I got a presser for it, and I'm like, is this a lost Charles Bronson film? And I'm looking, I was like, there's no way this film had the budget to do some kind of CG to make this guy look like this. And then when I actually saw him, I was like, this is creepy. But yeah, so you got to be you've worked with both versions of Bronson. That's pretty awesome.
Yeah, Rob has used that to his advantage. He's made a bunch of these movies because of the Bronson look. And he just happily goes up and does it, and then he goes to his family, and he's a horseman, so he goes to his horses and trips out, they call him for another movie, he comes out and does it. He just, just enjoying it. He's really funny, because I only worked on that thing 2 days with him, a crash course 2 days, and when I was leaving, he was like a fan. He says, do you mind if we take a picture together? I said, are you kidding me? Of course. Yeah, he was really cool.
See, I like to hear things like that. I don't like to always hear like the bad. I like to hear the good stories. I always think that's cool, and it sounds like
whose business it is to report bad on anybody anyway.
Yeah, that's
can I hear actors a lot of times when they get on interviews and stuff like that, and they start, the bitterness comes out, or what they think they were cheated on, or what they're not, being taken for what they're worth. I said that's not what it's about. You're there to talk about accomplishments, of course, and maybe there's a laugh or two in it or a nice story. And that's it, and if you want to, go punch something out, go punch the mirror or something, but chill out. Yeah, man.
Plus, I think as a fan, you don't want someone to, this so-and-so that I work with, what a scum he was and all that. Then what if you're a fan of that guy and somebody's listening to it and like, oh, man, now they're depressed.
It's not the right place for it,
No.
If you feel that way, that's personal, and that's where it belongs. But, we're not kids. I say that every once in a while. We've been in the game a long time. At least I've been living in it a long time. And I've been able to live a lot of life, and, you raise kids, and you do life, and you build a home, and you got a lot of things that you have to do that has to balance out in your existence. So to sit around and just dwell in bitterness, to me, is just beyond counterproductive, and it only hurts more than it helps. So what's the point? Why dwell on it?
Yeah.
I mean, just face it, deal with it, and move on, man. Take the punch on the chin and get up for the next round, man.
Now, you've done comedy, action,
Yeah.
horror. Do you have a preference?
No, not at all. Maybe I do. I like drama, and I like intense drama. I like doing it, above all of everything else. But I enjoy being stupid and silly. I'm like that most of the time. And, if it's a challenge or something to climb to, then that's the excitement. To do it, to go up and do a musical, which I've done, and things like that. It's a whole different set of chops, a whole set of commitments you have to make to be able to pull it off and make it work, or somebody can believe it. So that's it. So, I would love to do a horror film, not like that film, but with the budget and the intelligence of like an Exorcist. That would be fantastic if they would do something so, elaborate thing. That would be terrific to do. But that's any movie for that matter. But no, to me, if it's a nice script and it's something that has a bit of a challenge for me, or I could step up to, or I'm playing another part. Like right now, I've been doing a streaming series called A House Divided, and it's on the UMC network, and we've been doing it now we just finished our 3rd season on it. And in it, I play this guy who's the lead of the family's big rich family and so forth. But I have a lot of doubts to myself, and I'm never going to be the man my father is. And so I'm not humble so much, but a little bit weak or a little bit docile. That's the last thing Larry Jacobs is, by far. but to play it is fun. Because even when my lady was watching one of the episodes, she said, "Oh my God, you're such a whoop in the show." I said, "That's the part." She was getting all angry at it. But, that's the fun, is to go on and take the challenge of something outside of yourself and see if you can pull it off and not be afraid of it.
Do you have any advice? What would be good advice you think you would have for somebody just breaking in today?
And to anybody who wants to go into any kind of an involving profession, I say to myself, as I say to them, commit to it like a gospel. Commit to it like the water running from a faucet. Make it that necessary and that important. Be honest, because that's the key. Don't BS yourself, because we know our limitations. And we know when we're moving up or we're not doing as well. But everything takes time. It's like planting a tree, and the tree will grow, but you have to plant the seed, and you have to cultivate it, and you have to water it, and you have to allow it to get its sunshine. That's a life. So, being, let's say, in show business, a very involving, tough business, you must allow for the variables, because they're going to happen. There are going to be punches, and there are going to be unexpected, pulls of the rug from under your feet, but you have to just know you can get back up. So, again, I put it down to the simplicity of be honest to yourself and don't take anybody's shit, period. You don't have to.
Now, not to speak less of anything, but do you have a favorite thing you've been a part of?
Oh, God. I mean, doing the Jacksons movie was, as far as acting, the greatest experience in terms of a long-ranging role and playing all the different Asians I had to play. It can't be beat. Well, it can be beat, but that was very involving. But the most fun I had in my life was Welcome Back Kotter, because we were all young guys with a couple of bucks doing nuts. And, and we were just going bananas, because, nobody said any stars, man. We were just trying to figure it out. And we were so into it and so necessarily needed on each other that it became a family bond to this day. I mean, unfortunately, Bobby, Ron, and Johnny White and Marsha are not with us anymore. But when I see Gabe or I see John, there's no moment lost with us, and that family sentiment is just thick. And so I'm lucky. We just got lucky. But that's the most fun that I've ever had in my life on a project with regularity.
Well, I love the show. I've loved everything I've seen you in. I think you do a fantastic job, and I can't thank you enough for stopping by and talking to me today.
You got it, man. I appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Thank you, and if there's ever anything you need from us, you just let us know, and we'll take care of you.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Okay. Catch you later.
Thank you. Good night.
Okay. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
Thank you for your time, ladies and gentlemen. You have been listening to the Chronicles of Hollywood History. Thank you from Gomez Richmond Productions.